$1 million. The magic number on the path to financial freedom. It's the kind of cash that gets you thinking, maybe I can buy a house, or maybe I can stack up some investments and think about retirement and living off of passive income for the rest of my life. Basically, it means you have made it in life. Well, I don't have it just yet, but maybe we can change that. What's up, guys? My name is David, and I'm yet another Asian guy talking about finance, and welcome to my new channel. This is the place where I'll be documenting the journey to go from near zero to maybe hero. Well, maybe. And I'm going to start this journey to $1 million with... Yep, that's it. I mean, it wouldn't be amusing for you guys to watch if it wasn't a challenge now, would it? I want to build a framework that anyone can adapt and use for themselves. Adaptable enough that anyone can adjust for their own situation and circumstance and set their own respective goals. And I intend to reach my own goals of getting to $1 million in 5 years. That's 60 months of consistency, and again, it's going to be a massive challenge which will test my ability to save as well as my ability to control risk-taking and limit losses through this era of complete uncertainty. And let's make it an interesting journey by being a little bit of a masochist. So just exactly how do we plan to get there? I will break down my strategy into 4 simple rules. First rule, maximizing my savings and shaping my mindset to become a saver will be the foundational rule for this entire journey. While talking about living off passive income and dividends sounds fantastic, churning 3 or 4% a year with just $1,000 is simply not going to cut it. By aggressively contributing any free cash I have access to each month, I am looking to aggressively build the portfolio up to a scale and size that it starts being meaningful and have my money start working for me. We live in a consumption society, and how often are we tempted to spend the money that's available in front of us? It is frustrating that we find ourselves constantly hearing about these research studies showing just how many Americans simply cannot afford a $1,000 emergency. So, the basic understanding that we have to practice frugality and develop that savings mentality should be the most basic rule. This will mean that I'll have to watch my savings and cut out any frivolous items and take that extra cash to put into investment each month. And yes, it will be a challenging process and a sacrifice up front. But if it's going to buy me financial freedom later on in life, I do think that is an investment well worth it and well worth making. Which leads to my second point. While having a well-disciplined savings mentality is a good fundamental habit to have to build wealth, finding ways to increase your income will be even more important in turbocharging the growth of this portfolio. Let's take an example. If you're working a 9-to-5 job making $65,000 a year, which works out to be about $5,400 a month, after paying your taxes, you would only be left with $4,500 each month for your take-home pay. For a typical American budget, you might spend $2,000 on rent and household expenses, maybe another $800 in car payments and insurance, and then you can take another $500-600 for food, phone bills, utilities, and maybe another $600 just treat yourself a little. That would tally up to about $4,000 in expenses, leaving you with only $500 every single month for you to invest. But let's say you just worked a little harder, maybe pick up an extra shift at your work or find a side hustle that maybe you just entered that next pickleball competition to just make some extra cash. Let's say if we were able to increase your income by just 10%, maybe you work an extra hour each day, that 10% of effort would translate to an extra $6,500 a year of income for that scenario above, or about $5,000 a month after taxes. If you manage to increase your income without increasing consumption and spending, that would mean there would be an extra $500 each month that you should be able to put towards savings. And by just putting in that extra 10% effort, you just effectively double the amount of money that you can use for investing. Having that simple understanding is already going to make savings seem so much less daunting, and it is actually doable even if you were to put in just a little bit of extra effort that you may be able to increase your savings dramatically. For myself, I built my career in the real estate construction industry for the last 14 years, and it is a career where my income has close correlation to the number of hours that I put in. So for me, this is going to be my way of increasing my income to accelerate the growth rate of my savings. And for those of you that have careers with similar pay structures, you already have a fair amount of scalability over your income through just exactly how much of an effort you're willing to put in, while others may probably have to go a bit out of their way, like taking on part-time gigs or having a side hustle just to increase their contribution to savings. So now that we have established a steady stream of cash, it is time to start making your money work for you. We're going to start taking the same cash generation approach and start investing into companies that are able to pay dividends regularly with strong fundamentals that will allow them to grow their payouts over time. And in other words, we're going to be focusing on quality dividend growth stocks. By investing in these companies that generates cash, we can further reinvest the cash flow into our portfolio. And the larger the portfolio, the more dividends and cash it should start generating, repeating the process and creating a snowball effect. That said, we are going to try to avoid dividend traps. Companies are simply paying out a lot of dividends, but might be in businesses that are in decline or lack the resources to reinvest into their own business for the long-term sustainability. Getting paid 10% each year in dividends would be meaningless if the company is going to go bust in the next 5 years. So you want to make sure that you're able to recoup your investments. It is going to be up to us as stock pickers to prudently pick the right companies for the long term. One controversial part of my initial investing strategy is that I will probably not be overly concerned about diversification, at least in the beginning as I build my portfolio, contrary to most sound investment advice. And while I think it's a good idea to diversify, considering I do plan to invest regularly and starting with a relatively small amount, I'll probably look to balance my portfolio over time through incremental purchases of different companies as I put in more and more savings into portfolio, rather than spreading the portfolio out too thin. This probably will change over time, but in the beginning, I'm much more interested in being consistent with my contributions into the portfolio rather than make things overly complicated. And finally, maybe most importantly, we will let our money start working for us through compounding. Any dividends received will be reinvested in the portfolio, and I intend to let my investment grow without any withdrawals. This ties back to the first rule of savings, as we're going to have to stick to the game plan and not let the illusion of money trick us into the lifestyle creep. I'd rather accelerate my pace of retirement rather than having the newest iPhone each year, and I'm still happy with using my iPhone 14. For my own portfolio, I'm targeting about a 3% return through dividends as well as a 8% return through appreciation each year. These are the returns that the S&P 500 has averaged over the last 30 years, representing the U.S. economy over a period of time of turbulence. And this period covers recessions such as the 90s tech bubble, the Great Recession of 2008, and the volatility that we experienced during the 2020 pandemic. So, despite all the volatility that we had over the last 30 years, the S&P 500 still managed to generate an average return of about 11% every single year. And let's assume we had started with just $1,000. Assume we reinvested all of our earnings back into the portfolio. It would actually only take just 7 years to double the initial investment. And here's the kicker. To make another $1,000 going from $2,000 to $3,000, the amount of time you would actually need would drop to just 3.5 years if everything was reinvested over time. And by year 20, your account would be worth over $8,000 with this level of compounding. And just to put it into context, if you pulled out all of your profits every single year rather than reinvest, you would need a shocking almost 64 years to generate the same amount of profits you could generate from just 20 years of compound growth. By simply reinvesting and sticking to these 4 rules, I'm looking to build my $1 million portfolio and share this entire experience with you guys. And I'm not going to lie, this is going to be an insane challenge. It's going to be pretty difficult. Personally, in my construction career, while building an entire house seems daunting, it is going to be a lot less intimidating if we're able to break the task down into individual components and set milestones for ourselves to keep moving. So for our first goal, we will be looking to build the portfolio from $1,000 to $10,000. I have built a Google spreadsheet that I'll be using to keep track of my portfolio over time, and that will be available publicly so that you guys can have the full transparency to see what I've invested in and also track my investments to see how it evolves over time. The Google spreadsheet will be linked below so you guys can check my progress at any time. And since I plan to make regular weekly contributions to the portfolio, I'll probably be posting portfolio updates whenever I make new investments to keep you guys in the loop. I may also start making some commentary videos just to elaborate on the ways of being frugal, or maybe if I find new ways of making some extra side income. Thanks for joining me for this intro video. My name is David, and I'm yet another Asian guy talking about finance on YouTube, so hope to see you guys on the next one.